Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and my name is Dr. Rachel Rikunze, and I'll be taking you guys today on public law. Remember, the last class we had our explanation, or we had a discussion on chapter 7 that talked about civil liabilities of state. So today we'll be looking at chapter 8, which I already sent you the notes on our group. So I'm going to give you an explanation of chapter 8 today, which is administrative law and the principle of legality. And for the principle of legality, or for our chapter today, you can find it in our textbook from page 60 to 64, which is Public Law by A. Kruger. So, we look at our specific outcomes. Remember, the last class I explained to you, outcomes are things that you must be able to do at the end of each chapter. So with regards to this particular chapter 8, at the end of chapter 8, you must be able to explain administrative law as part of public law. Secondly, you must be able to talk about administrative law with regards to judicial review. And the last part, we are going to look at the principle of legality. So let's start with the first part, which talks about explaining public law as part of administrative law. Look at the first part, which is administrative law as part of public law. Good. So this particular question for you to explain administrative law as part of public law, we had it as a question in the exams of 2000 and 2017. So when we talk about administrative law being part of public law, simply we are trying to do what? To define administrative law and the position where it fits into the public law, So basically administrative law as part of public law can be seen as that branch or that part of public law that actually does what? Regulates the activities of bodies that exercise public functions. So basically that's administrative law. Then secondly, we are going to look at administrative law and judicial review. Basically, when we talk about administrative law and judicial review, we are looking at what? The activities. Remember, administrative law, it deals with what? Like our previous definition of administrative law as part of public law. It is what? That branch of law that regulates the activities of bodies that carries out public function. So now, when we talk about judicial review, basically we are talking about the courts doing what? Reviewing the decisions or the actions of public law bodies. Are we there? So now, basically when they ask you judicial review, they are basically talking about looking into decisions that have been taken by administrative bodies of the government. So judicial review, it's now like, let's give a practical example where let's say a judicial body is what? Let's say the municipality is a judicial body of the state. And let's say the municipality is supposed to do what? It's supposed to carry out a contract or a tender of doing what? Repairing a particular road. And in the process of doing that, the municipality actually does what? Maybe infringe into the rights of individual or infringe into the property of a particular individual. That now the court has the powers to do what? To review that decision of the administrative body, which is the municipality. And in such a situation, the court can review the decision and give, maybe say, a amount of money that the municipality is supposed to pay to compensate that harm that is being done to an individual's property. So, when we are talking about a judicial review, you must be you must be aware that there is a difference between judicial review and judicial appeal. So what is the difference between a judicial review and a judicial appeal? So when the court is actually carrying out a judicial review, what it actually looked at, it looked at the procedure that the administrative body, let's use our previous example, which is the municipality, it's actually looking at the methodology or the method in which that municipality used in arriving at the decision. So that is basically what we talked about judicial review. And when we talk about appeal, when a court is actually carrying out a judicial appeal on an administrative action that has been taken by an administrative body, it basically looks at the correctness of the remedy or the solution or the final outcome of what they actually did. So review, we talk judicial review basically look at the methodology in which was used in arriving at a particular decision. While appeal, you look at the correctness. When we talk about the correctness, you are actually what the court is going to focus on is actually going to do what? To look if the remedy or the solution it actually abides or is aligned with the law that actually regulates that particular activity. So that's the difference between a judicial review and a judicial appeal. The last part of our discussion today will talk about principle of legality. Principle of legality. This particular question or particular subtopic has appeared a lot in the past exams. It actually appeared in the exam of 2017, 18, and 19. So it's something that you must actually pay attention to. So for example, you can be asked, simply explain what you understand by principle of legality. So now when we talk about the principle of legality, we basically talked about what? Those principles that must be followed in carrying out administrative action. And these administrative actions, you can find them in what? In section 33 of the Constitution. Section 33 of the Constitution. So section 33 actually does what? It lays down the action. So the principle of legality actually does what? It follows. In applying the principle of legality, you have to follow the actions that has been laid down in section 33 of the Constitution. So the first thing is what? For an administrative body to carry out its activities, it must make sure that that activity is what? It is lawful. It is lawful. So an administrative action carried out by an administrative body must be lawful. When we talk about lawful, basically we're talking about what? It must adhere to the law or it must respect the law. Second point, administrative action must be administrative action must be what? It must be fair. Thirdly, it must be reasonable. Fourthly, administrative action must be what? It must be for public interest. Fifth, it must not discriminate. It must not discriminate. It must also not intend to wrong anyone. Administrative action must not be what? It must not be carried out in an arbitrary manner. example, explain the principle of legality. When you are asked, for example, giving you a question, most of the time it will appear like a question for what? For 9 marks or 8 marks or 7-mark question. You must be able to explain that in carrying out or in applying the principle of legality, it must what? Follow the action that has been laid or put in place in section 33 of the Constitution. And this principle must follow the actions based on the following points. First and foremost, the action must be lawful, it must be fair, it must be reasonable, it must be for public interest. Remember, these actions, they are what? They are administrative actions. And if a body is an administrative body, like we defined it at the first part, that it does what? It regulates the activity of administrative bodies. Administrative bodies are basically bodies of the government. It's not a private body. It's basically body of within the government that carries out government activities or functions. So it must be for public interest. There's no way an administrative action should be for a private interest. No, it should be for a public interest, and it should not be discriminatory. Maybe the discrimination is based on the ground of gender or race or what. No, any administrative action that is carried out by an administrative body must not be discriminatory. It must treat everybody on an equal platform. Thirdly, it must not intend to wrong somebody, like the example that we gave about a municipality carrying out a construction or a repair of a street or a road. In that regard, that municipality must make sure that it protects the rights of people and their properties in carrying out their activity. In a situation where let's say it infringe or it infringe on the right of an individual or on the right of somebody's property, basically at the beginning it should not be the intent of that act to do so. It should happen like an accident. And the last part, it should not be carried out in an arbitrary manner. When you talk about arbitrary manner, we are simply talking about what? It should be done carefully. It should not just be done. The administrative body must carry out its activity in a manner that is right and reasonable. You shouldn't just go around and say, for example, let's use our same example where we talked about a municipality doing what? Repairing or carrying out repairs on a particular street. It must look into the rights of the people around that street and the rights of their property to make sure that it doesn't infringe on those rights. But in a situation where it infringes, it shouldn't be the intention of the municipality to actually infringe on those rights on those people's rights or on the rights of people's property. It should be unintentional. So that is that for today. I already sent you guys the notes, and make sure you have a grasp of principle of legality and administrative law as part of public law. Thank you very much, and see you next time.